As with landscaping in the last episode of CITV, we did not detail the surveys and their role in the grand scheme of things. And when we purchased land, it was 2 plots. And because we're building 3 townhomes, we needed to turn the land into 3 plots. Hence the need for a surveyor to draw up the new mapping and to present it to the Delray Beach City Zoning Department. I spoke with Marisha Kreitman of Avalon and Associates, who are both surveyors and mappers, and a company we used during the purchase of the land on our attorney's recommendation. It is essential to get this done speedily to dovetail into our timeline for an end-of-year start to construction. Plus, we can't apply for permits until we have approval for replatting. Well, Marisha, thank you very much for joining me. I understand that you're very busy, but it's great to have you on CITV so we can explain to the investors and anybody else that's watching exactly what we're doing, especially with the Delray Beach project, which you're working on now. So can you just explain to everybody what your function is in a project such as the Delray Beach Townhomes?
So I am a licensed surveyor, licensed to practice surveying in Florida. And for this particular project, my company, which is Avalon Associates, prepared the initial survey. And we will be preparing the plat for replatting the property based on the design.
Right, and can you explain to all the folks out there what is replatting?
Well, replatting is, you do replatting when you have a property that's already platted and you are reconfiguring it for a different purpose. It could be for a different zone, so it may go from residential to commercial, or it may be just reconfiguring your lots to add more lots, or reconfigure for drainage, or whatever the purpose is. You would have to replat, and then it goes to City Commission for review and acceptance.
And where are we exactly in the timeline right now, Marisha?
Well, the survey is done. I prepared the preliminary plat already, and I'm waiting on the city to do a pre-application meeting where they go through all the documents that you have to submit it to City Council for approval. Right now, I spoke to the person in charge at the city this morning, and she's gonna have to find out from a planner, because it's not assigned to a planner yet. She has to find out from the planner if this is considered a major or a minor plat, because the property is 2 plats right now, and we're gonna be creating three lots, 2 lots to 3 lots. So she has to let me know if it's considered a minor subdivision or major. That's something that they would have to make a call on. And depending on that, it could either be it was to $3,150, or it will be around $1,500 for replatting if it's a minor plat. You also have other costs like the city doesn't have a surveyor on staff. They contract with 4 surveyors in the county. Avalon Associates is one of them.
Oh, good.
So we would go to one of the other surveyors for them to look at the plat, make sure everything's right in terms of the legal standing for recordation. So I sent an email to the one of the surveyors that's on that list, which is Caulfield and Wheeler, and he's going to get back to me on what that cost would be. It will run like about $1,000 to $1,500. So since it's not a very complicated plat, I anticipate it being around $1,000, but I'm not sure yet on that. That's where we are with the process right now. We still have to go through the initial preliminary application, which we're waiting on.
But it seems to me that at this moment in time, your job is almost done here. I actually heard, just so we can date stamp this video for everyone that's watching, this is now August the 16th, Monday, August the 16th. And I just got a communication from Andre at Ames International Architecture, and Rochelle, who is the lady at the city who is handling this case, has come back to him with some questions with regarding to the application. Two of them are quite easy to do. The third one is a little bit tricky. And just so I can explain to everyone who is watching this video, that we changed the entity that was going to do the project from Centennial Investments LLC to Centennial Investments DB LLP. And the problem is that somewhere in the shuffle, some biz has lost our application and we're having to reapply all over again. And that means that the paperwork is not tying up at the city with the application that we've put in. So we're trying to work around that at this very moment, so I can actually give you an update on that. But hopefully we're going to bypass that over the next few days, and we're hoping that some biz can get their act together as well. Marisha, thank you very much for taking your time out of your very busy day to give us all an update. We're very appreciative of the work that you've done. We're very pleased with the work that you've done. So no doubt we'll be speaking to you over the next week as we put this to bed finally. In the last episode of CITV, we spoke to John Haley of Haley Engineering. He's the gentleman that's put together the engineering plans for the water supply, waste networks, drainage and grading of the site. In fact, last episode he gave us a very detailed explanation of his job, and now in this episode he provides us with an update on the plans he created and his findings while creating them. Now, he also gives us some good news about the drainage situation of the site, as you will hear. Hi, John. Well, thank you very much for joining us here. Appreciate it.
Sure thing. No problem.
Again, crazy times at the moment. Everyone's very busy, so I appreciate it very much. So, have you finished with your plans?
Yes. Yeah, we're complete, other than responding to the city's comments after we submit.
All right.
They typically always have plenty of comments. Nothing
Sure.
substantial, but
so there's nothing left to do. There's no overlays or anything. I thought I saw a bit of an email exchange between you and Ames International about something they wanted. I can't recall exactly what, but obviously that's dealt with and put away, I guess.
yes, we gave them our CAD files so that we can coordinate the landscaping with the civil drawings and any other site features that might be in conflict with the civil.
So the other day I saw an email exchange and with Julie Cogan of Cogan Construction, and it said there you're going to have no problems with drainage on this site. Why is that?
Yeah, well, this site just happens to have an exceptional exfiltration rate. It's at 1.14 times 10 to the negative 3, and typically your exfiltration.
What does that mean in English?
Well, to give you an idea, typically the rates are to the -5 in exponential format, and so it's substantial. It's very rare to have an exfiltration rate 10 to the -3, but so we the site is very pervious, and so the water travels through the earth at a faster rate than it typically does in other sites.
Wow.
So the drainage will percolate through the ground. A drainage runoff will percolate through the ground at a much faster rate than average, which is very good.
I'd like to say, well, that's the only reason why I bought that site, but I'd be lying, of course.
Yeah.
No, but that's good to know. I mean, it's one less hassle. I mean, can you see, anything coming along that might trip us up, in your opinion?
I don't. There's a few things that we'll have to work out with the city. One is the front sidewalk is flush with the asphalt there, the roadway asphalt in 2nd Street, and the city typically wants a curb or something to separate the asphalt from the sidewalk. That I don't see as a big deal. Also, we have 3 1-inch fire fire main connections to each, well, each unit, we have a 1-inch fire connection. And the city is going to want us to pressure test to make sure that we have plenty of pressure for each of the fire connections.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Julie Cogan arranged a pressure test for the fire hydrants with the fire department. I'm not too sure about that, and I know that we passed with flying colours, but I remember writing a check for that. So I may be wrong, and when I speak to Julie in one of the interviews in the next few days,
Right.
I'll find out.
Yeah, it's a fairly new 8-inch water main on 4th, so I don't anticipate any pressure problems at all on this site.
Sure, no.
Other than that, I really don't foresee any problems as far as the civil work goes.
Okay, so as far as you are concerned, you're ready to go. Basically, waiting for the city to come back to you with some questions, and once they're done, we go forward with permits, and hopefully we hope a straightforward job. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I really don't anticipate any problems.
Okay, lovely. Well, John, as I said in our last interview, we'll be speaking to you as the job progresses, and I really thank you for taking the time out today, and appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. My pleasure.
In the last episode, we didn't bring forward the landscaping aspects of this build, but of course, it's a critical component, especially for curbside appeal. So it's important that we get the landscaping absolutely spot on, including the landscape lighting. The landscape designs are being undertaken by KW Landscape Architecture, and the project manager for our job is Peter Coyle. So I called up with him earlier this week to ask him a few questions about his designs. Peter, first of all, I want to say thank you for joining me. I know you're really busy, especially at this time of year. At what time do you enter the fray?
Usually after someone's formed their relationship with their architect already, and most of the time it's after some of the building design has been developed. And the earlier the better is great for us, because we just love to collaborate and be involved and contribute what we can in any design decisions. So, but generally things have moved along a little bit before we're brought on.
Yeah, and what is, I mean, and assuming those relationships have been consummated, so to speak, what's the first job that you do?
Well, since we're designers, we primarily just obviously meet with the client and then collect all the background information that we need, like surveys and site plans and floor plans like that. We put that all together and form our base plan. And then we have what we call design charrettes, where we have our principal, Krent Wieland, and someone like myself. We'll sit down for an hour or two and just talk about different ideas and possibilities that can be done on any particular job, because essentially every job is 100% custom and unique to itself. So we approach each one that way. So we'll do that. We'll present concept ideas to the client. Usually it's a couple different concepts, and we can pull a little bit from each and bring that together to create a final concept. During that process, we'll typically go out to the site to see what the existing conditions are, and especially in the cases where there's a remodel going on, see existing trees and things like that we need to account for. And then once the client is happy with the concept, which is the big idea, we know what we're going to be really getting into the nuts and bolts of designing, we move on to the construction plans and develop those. And that can involve, a couple more site visits or meetings with the client. And then once construction gets going, we come out as needed, basically as the agent for the client or the owner, and just report to them anything we see that may be wrong or done incorrectly, and then they can share that information with their general contractor.
Who actually does the physical landscaping? Who puts all the plants in, the trees and everything else?
Those are landscape contractors that we have some good relationships with, a few that work in the area that we know they will do work up to our standards. So we have a few of those that we like to recommend.
And you work directly with them during the process, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you saw this particular, I know that we've got the landscaping schematics in already. When you were designing our particular project, what were the driving factors for the plans that you put forward?
Well, this is a unique site in that it's next to a new hotel. So privacy was a major factor. So around the perimeter of the site, there was a privacy wall that I believe the architect designed. So we went ahead and just enhanced that where we could, using screening plantings and things like that to provide privacy, but also not make it too overshaded or anything like that. And then working with the somewhat limited space that there is, seeing as it's, I believe, a 3-unit building going in there, trying to give people space to use, to be able to have, whether it's family gatherings or whatever they may want to use the space for, to try to account for that as well.
And at what point do you actually bolt down the plans, and say, right, that is it, this is fixed? Or is it a case that you fix the plans and you go down to the job site and your eye takes you somewhere else, maybe that's not quite as you saw it on the plan, we should try and change this or that? I mean, how much flexibility do you have once you've submitted the plans?
A good deal of flexibility. Usually the biggest or the hardest thing to change is trees. There's generally requirements for a certain number of trees that we need to get on the site, and sometimes type of trees as well. So that kind of thing, you need to at least keep your totals about the same. You can certainly move and tweak things around, especially some of the smaller plant material. That's pretty flexible, but yeah, the trees are really the only thing where you're limited.
And does the city dictate to you what sort of plants, I mean, forgetting trees, of course, but what sort of plants you can use? And if so, which ones are they and why?
The only thing you can't use would be invasive species, things that have been used in the past, 50, 100 years ago, that they discovered spread readily and have been found out in the Everglades and tend to take over the environments. So those types of things we can't use anymore, nor do we really want to, obviously. But and then they do require some native plants, generally about 50%. Of what is used. They want about that for native, and then they also like us to mix leafy trees with palms, not have all too much of the same thing going in. So try to get as much variety as there as well.
And you also designed the landscape lighting. I mean, again, what determined the design that you put forward?
That obviously we just try to accent certain elements of the landscape. We don't like to light it up like a a hotel, if you will. We try to it depends on what the client is looking for. If they want lots of light, we'll give them lots of light. That's going to be a safety thing or something like that for them. But we generally try to get the bigger pieces, the larger trees. Maybe if there's a particular accent that is a feature focal point, we'll try to light that up as well. And sometimes the walls as well, give a wall a nice wash of light. If it's in a particularly high use area, and it's something the client would like to feature, we can do that as well. But yeah, it's usually those high points that we try to focus on.
And is the city quite restrictive on what you can and what you cannot do?
Not necessarily. I don't think we've at least run into a situation where we've done too much of something where it became an issue. They generally care most about the building and the site. Then, like I said, with the trees, they want to make sure that we're meeting kind of the city's goals as far as reestablishing shade canopy and things like that. But lighting doesn't tend to get too much attention, so they haven't really said anything to us about that.
And on the subject of lighting, I've been watching the advancement of technology with solar for quite a while now, and I noticed that on the plans that you put forward, it called for wired lighting through conduits in the ground. What is your opinion on solar lighting? Is it as advanced as I think it is, or it's not as, or is it sort of like form over function, rather than anything else?
Yeah, that's a tough one, and honestly, we don't use it very much at all. Mostly, our lighting is low wattage lighting that's tied into a system in the house. We work on a lot of higher end residential projects where it is tied into a system inside the house, or the homeowner can use their phone to control the lights in a lot of cases. But the solar lighting, in my personal experience, it tends to underperform to what we're looking to get out of it in the landscape. So I haven't personally had a lot of experience with anything that is really impressed me in any way that's ready to be used on our projects.
Sure. And then just finally, just from a practical point of view, what comes first? When you're laying out the construction process, is it the lighting that you put into the ground first and the conduits for it, or is it the shrubs and the trees, or is it both together, or is it just how does that process work?
Trees go first because they require the heaviest equipment to get in most cases, especially with larger trees, obviously. So trees generally go in first, and they can go in quite early sometimes before the house is finished.
All right.
So they can start getting acclimated and growing their roots because they'll do that first before you see any real growth. And then shrubs and ground covers come in, and probably before sod, you would, like you said, see conduits and things like that going in. Same with irrigation, but also with lighting. Excuse me. One thing they will do earlier on in the process, before driveways and things like that are done, they will put in conduits and things like that underneath where a driveway is going to go in. So that's kind of there for good and won't be disturbed as smaller things like shrubs and ground covers go in later.
Peter, thank you very much.
My pleasure, Tony.
Last month, we spoke to Steve Henderson of Formica and Associates, the consulting engineers for the project's mechanical, electrical and plumbing design. On August the 18th, a few days ago, I talked to Daniel Hernandez. Now, he's the actual hands-on design engineer working on the townhomes, and I asked him for a progress report and when we can expect delivery of the final MEP plans. Here is what he had to say. Welcome, Daniel. Thank you for joining us. All the way from Colombia, I believe.
I am working from Colombia, yes.
Okay, so Daniel, let me ask you a question first and foremost as we get started. How long before you finish the plans?
We are about to finish this in about 2 or 3 days.
Right.
No more than that. Yes.
And just so the investors who are looking in know, so today I have to squint my eyes, I haven't got my glasses on. It's August the 18th, so we're looking really by the end of the week, really, yeah?
Yeah. I think Friday will be a good day to send the 100% documents. And after that, we will be waiting for instructions for the permit submission. Because I understand that Ames has some meeting with the city and they are waiting for soon approval for us to submit the permit documents for the MEPs.
Right, but I don't think the MEPs are part of the review process with the city.
No, they're not.
It's only when we go into the permits applications, that's when we are, when we're in need of it.
Correct.
So what have been the things that, this has not got, again, forgive me for being so direct. This has taken actually a little bit longer than we anticipated. What has been the main reason for the slow progress?
Okay, first of all, in the MEP's process, we always need some information from the civil plans, from the structural plans, from the interior designer. And at the beginning of this project, we didn't have that information. So as long as I had that information, I was making progress on the project. But right now I have all the information, I have updated backgrounds, so now I can finish the project. The most challenging thing in this was the coordination with the soffits, because we needed to fit in there with the duct work for the mechanical work.
Well, that was something that Curtis House was working on with Shane Ames and Andre at Curtis, because apparently he felt that there was too much of a gap or too much space being taken up by the soffits for what eventually was going to go through it. So you addressed that problem with him, or that situation with him, yeah?
Yes, I made a call with Andre and to try to coordinate that space and some LED lighting the interior designer wanted on each one of the three houses. And I just sent them what I needed, and he responded with updated backgrounds, and we just make it work.
Sure. And once you're okay, so now that we've got to the point now where excuse me, you're only a couple of days or 3 days away from getting all the MEPs together, and then that's going to be put forward eventually for a permit application. Once they go in with the permit applications, what do you expect to hear back from the city via Coke and Construction about your plans? Do you think there'll be a lot of variances or changes, or do you expect it to just go sailing through?
Normally for residential projects, I don't receive much comments because it's pretty much straightforward, everything. So maybe comments on the entry calcs because we have method to do the entry calcs and the load calcs, and maybe the person who is going to review the project in the city is not familiarized with that method we do, and I just have to respond what we did in there, and that will be it. I don't expect much comments.
Because you could, as you appreciate, the MEPs and the structural plans that's the guts, the most important part of this whole construction process and approval process by the city. So obviously, the quicker it goes through, like even seamlessly one go, that would be fantastic. But
yes.
yeah, no, I understand it. I mean, do you see any problems or issues moving forward? Excuse me.
No, I don't think so. We are pretty much coordinated between the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection. And the only changes I will expect will be if the architectural backgrounds will change. If not, I am pretty much sure that we won't receive major comments from the city.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's music to my ears, and also obviously to the investors as well, because as I said, the MEPs are one of the most critical parts of the process. And if they're ready and to go, and if we can bring structural along as well, then we're going to bring forward the chances, or actually increase our chances of making December breaking ground situation, which is what we're looking to do. So Daniel, thank you very much for joining us. I know that I chased you all around the world trying to get you to this meeting, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
No
problem.
Investors who are listening in, I'm sure they appreciate it as well. So I'd like to say thank you very much. And as the process goes along, I know that probably someone else in your company will take over on the actual physical visiting the site. Obviously, you can't go there from Colombia.
That could be me, or yeah, of course. But that could be me. If not, it will be Steve.
All right. But I mean, so you'd physically come over from Colombia to the site here?
Yeah, correct.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, Daniel, I'd like to say thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure, and you've been great to work with, and we're very happy with the service you provided. And
thank you very much.
I look forward to speaking to you as we move along the timeline of this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Tumay Consulting Engineers are the structural engineers for the townhomes project. When we met the last episode, Hikmet laid out the roadmap for how the structural engineering plans would be developed through to permitting and hopefully approval, and then deployed to his shell contracting company, Boca Development, for construction. Here, Hikmet gives us an update. Well, thank you for joining us, Hikmet. Understanding that the plans here are not, or your plans that you're drawing up, the structural plans aren't integral to the review meeting that's going ahead in the next few days. How long is it till we get to the permit procedure where we do need your plans? What's that process, and how long will that take you?
Well, I think it's about around 4 weeks. If we're gonna get, they told me that this is the latest drawings. I guess all the site approvals are done and plan is not changing anymore, my understanding. And so we are starting from there, and hopefully we'll just start printing and designing by Monday, and we'll take about 4 weeks from there. We'll coordinate with AIM's office and we'll see their schedule. And if they need it sooner, I'm going to try to push it further to get the permit drawings done.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Now, you've seen the final plans that only came into you on Monday, but is there anything out in there that jumps out at you that might prove problematical at all, or do they look all okay?
No, they look okay because I already studied the plans and they're not dramatically changed what we were waiting for. And sometimes, they make changes depending on what the city requires. There wasn't major change on this project. And I think they have some preliminary mechanical also, which we're going to watch when we are doing the structure around it. And I don't see any problem at this point.
You said in our last interview that Boga Development, which is your company that puts up the shell scheme, which obviously there's a cross benefit. But okay, knowing that we have to pour the pads first and do the basic infrastructure before we erect the shell, are you at the moment working to a backlog? At
the moment, there is definitely a backlog. We're not getting anything, starting anything new until we just clean up our hands. It's been very, very busy summer for us. And yes, it's hard to get labor, not because there's a real shortage, but because of COVID, there are a lot of laborers having COVID. And it creates problem because we have to continue with the same guys and hoping that it will get a little better. Our backlog will be cleaned out, from the projects we're working on right now. We're finishing almost every week a project to get a little, the easier times, I would say. So we will be ready when we're breaking ground with this project. If the permit drawings takes 4 weeks and the permit takes about 6 weeks to 8 weeks, so we are about 3 months out, and we should be definitely ready to work and jump on it as soon as we're ready to start the shell.
Yeah, because I mean, listen, it's famous that I keep on going on about a December start, so hopefully that comes to fruition. Is the planning department, are they backed up at all? Are they taking their own sweet time, or what's your experience with them at the moment?
They are somewhat. This is a commercial project, and it's I'm not very familiar with the permitting. We're doing 2 projects, not as an engineer, but as a shell contractor in the Delray right now, a commercial. It's not too far from your project. It's a little north of George Bush Boulevard, a shopping center. And plans are coming out, fairly quick. I don't think there's a huge delay at the building department, but like everywhere else, there is some certain, it's not like getting the permit in a month. It takes a little time. I expect about at least 8 weeks for building permit for this project.
Yeah, right. Which is okay. It's probably not too far away from what is normal anyway. Mm-hmm. And I know that we asked you on this last interview that we had a couple of months ago. But how long does it take you to erect or to construct that shell scheme, or
I believe this one will be about 12 to 14 weeks. And we're going to design it with some precast floors. We need to, as soon as we have the permit application done, now we need to get on contract and start releasing those precast members so we can schedule it, because with this backlog from everybody, we don't want to delay it. But the good news is, there are a lot of delays on the wood trusses and wood members, steel rebar. I mean, not the structural steel, but the bar joist systems. But we're not using any of the systems for this building. It's going to be some precast systems, which they are good. They're about 6 to 8 weeks. If we just do the right schedule, everything will go very smooth.
That time scale will be approximately?
Like I said, this is within that 12 to 14 weeks that I gave.
Oh, right. Okay. Absolutely. Okay.
Each setup will take about, for them, about maybe a week. And then after that, we have a week to form and pour concrete on top of it for each floor, basically.
Well, my target is to try and get these things built by October, November 2022. So I know I'm pushing it a little bit, but
We'll
I'm
see.
a typical
Yeah, we'll work
developer,
with
so
you.
what can I tell you? You know.
Yeah.
All right, Hikmet, look, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking your time out. I've actually said this line to every single person that's come in for an interview today, or the last week or so over Zoom. So I know you guys are working flat out, and I appreciate just that, the 10 minutes to inform all our investors what is going on. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And
Yeah, well, you're welcome, and always, and we appreciate your business too.
well, that's lovely. Thank you for saying that, and I'll speak to you soon. I should have kept the cameras rolling a little longer, as after we finished the interview, Hikmet explained that the prices of lumber and metal are at the moment beyond anything anyone has seen prior. He went on to say that by the time we come to do our construction, he's convinced that prices will have settled down. Well, at least I hope they do. Obviously, a rising material cost will hit our bottom line, although it is true to say that house prices have gone up somewhat in tandem. Nevertheless, it's nice to know that prices for these types of materials should revert to normal by the time we start construction. Well, many thanks for watching. I hope the information we provided gives you a good insight into the development of these townhomes. By the time our next episode is presented to you in October, I'm hopeful we'll have a firmer idea of when we can start construction. I suspect really the next episode will be light on news, seeing as the plans will be awaiting approval by the Delray Beach Planning Department. So perhaps I'll give you a market overview at that time of where prices are, and look at some other developments that are being built in and around around our townhomes project. But before I go, I'd like to share with you the Douglas Elliman report for Q2 of this year for Delray Beach. We can see that the luxury family home has grown by 4.9% over Q1 of this year, and year on year 52.1%. So all of this bodes well, providing the market holds, which there is every indication that it will. This just leaves me to wish you all a great end of summer, a big thank you for your support and encouragement, and I look forward to speaking with you either in person on CITV in October or hopefully before. Stay safe.